Welcome to our channel. If you love heartfelt stories filled with romance, suspense, and emotional depth, you've come to the right place. Today, we dive into the journey of Tu Kai, a strong young woman fleeing from a dangerous force from her past. Just when all hope seems lost, Henry, a calm but caring man, appears to help her. Henry takes Tu Kai to a secluded cabin deep in the forest, a temporary safe haven. But that's not all, he also gives her a black phone, not for ordinary calls, but as an invisible lifeline to reach him in moments of greatest danger. Finally, Henry leaves, leaving behind a silent promise, "Just call me, and I'll come." And Tu Kai stands alone among the trees, with a heart quietly warmed, and a phone that never lights up but is always waiting. Want to find out what happens next? Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Don't forget to leave a comment below. Do you think Henry will come back in time? The car slowly came to a stop on the edge of a narrow dirt path covered in dry pine needles. Tu Kai lifted her gaze, her eyes dazed as she looked at the scene before her. The whole world seemed to fall into silence, only the wind whispered through the tall trees, and the scent of pine resin lingered faintly in the air. A small wooden house appeared, nestled on a gentle slope, as if it didn't quite belong to reality. Henry turned off the engine and looked at her. Without a word, he stepped out of the car, walked around to her side, and gently opened the door. "Come on," he said softly. "From now on, this is your home." His voice was low and calm, carrying with it a quiet certainty, as if everything had already been planned, as if she had always had a place to return to, she just hadn't known it yet. Tu Kai hesitated before stepping out. The ground beneath her feet was soft with moss, the dry leaves crackling gently under her shoes, but inside, her heart was a whirlwind of emotion. She didn't ask where they were, or why he brought her here. She simply stood there, staring at the small wooden house, the old gray-tiled roof, the tiny wooden windows, and a faded wind chime hanging quietly from the porch. Every detail seemed to carry a strange stillness, as if this place had been waiting just for her. Henry pushed the door open. The creak of the hinge was soft, not eerie. On the contrary, the warmth that spilled out from inside made her momentarily forget to breathe. The house was small, with bright wooden floors and a fireplace glowing softly with embers. The faint scent of dry tea hung in the air, as if someone had just recently left. Tu Kai stepped in, motionless. This space made her want to cry. Not from pain, but because it was peaceful, so deeply peaceful. So unlike the world she had just escaped, a world full of fear, of running, of sleepless nights. "You prepared all this?" she asked quietly, her voice barely more than a breeze. Henry stood behind her, his eyes fixed on her slender back. He didn't answer immediately, just walked over and rested his hand lightly on the back of the sofa, maintaining a deliberate distance. "Not prepared," he finally said. "I've kept this place, for the moment you needed to disappear." She turned to look at him. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, though she refused to let them fall. She didn't want to show weakness. But somehow, his silence, that quiet, steady presence, was dissolving the defenses she'd built so carefully around her heart. "I can't stay here long," Henry continued, his voice low and resolute. "There are things I still have to do. But I'll come back. For now, stay here. Rest. Breathe." Tu-Kai turned toward the small window. Outside, the forest was bathed in golden afternoon light, as if brushed by an unseen, gentle hand. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling her heart still racing, but her soul, for the first time in a long while, was beginning to feel lighter. "What about you?" she asked. "Don't you need a place to hide too?" Henry smiled faintly, a wisp of a smile like mist in the early dawn. "I'm used to it. I don't need shelter, as long as I know you're safe." That one sentence, without flourish, without promises, made her heart quietly skip a beat. Deep in the silent forest, in a hidden little house no one knew about, two people, one running, one protecting, touched each other not with words, but with everything unspoken. Twilight had begun to settle. The last light of the day filtered through the canopy, painting soft golden-orange streaks across the wooden floor, like the final breath of a long day. Inside the small cabin, the fireplace still crackled gently, spreading a quiet warmth that wrapped around the room. Tu-Kai sat on a wooden chair near the window, her hands resting loosely in her lap. The silence made her uneasy. Perhaps because she had grown too used to running, to the sound of footsteps chasing her, to watchful eyes in the shadows. Now that peace had finally arrived, she didn't quite know what to do with it. Henry approached without a sound, without warning. He placed a small black box on the wooden table in front of her. The box had a matte finish, unmarked, no logos, no labels. So simple, it felt important. Tu-Kai glanced up at him, her eyes filled with quiet suspicion. "What is it?" "It's for you," Henry replied, his voice calm but firm. She slowly lifted the lid. Inside was a black phone, compact, sleek, minimal. It wasn't flashy, but had an undeniable strength to its design. This wasn't an ordinary device. It felt specialized. "This phone only has two main functions, calling and sending emergency signals," Henry said, sitting down across from her. His eyes locked onto hers. "I've preset my number. If you press and hold the side button for 3 seconds, it will send a location signal to me wherever you are." Tu-Kai picked up the phone, her fingers brushing across its cool surface. A strange feeling crept into her chest, not the thrill of owning something new, but rather, as if she were holding a lifeline. "You think I'm going to be in danger?" she asked softly. Henry paused before answering. "It's not if. It's when. You know they won't let this go." She bit her lower lip, not denying it. Deep down, she knew today was only a pause before the next storm. And Henry, this quiet man who said so little, was giving her the only weapon he could from afar, his presence, made invisible but constant, through this phone. "Will you really come?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as though the question itself weighed too heavily. Henry looked at her. It wasn't a look filled with grand promises or dramatic declarations. But in his pale, gray eyes, there was something far more powerful: conviction. "As long as you call," he said. Tukai lowered her gaze, gently clutching the phone in her hand. She didn't know where her life would go from here, didn't know if she would ever actually need to use it. But one thing was certain: as long as she held onto this phone, Henry would never be too far away. The black phone rested quietly in her palm, cold, but solid. In a world full of uncertainty, perhaps this was his way of saying, "I may not always be beside you, but I will never leave you." The sun had sunk low on the horizon, and the last rays of light bathed the forest in a soft orange-gold glow. A gentle breeze passed through the pine trees, carrying the earthy scent of resin and a touch of evening chill. In front of the wooden cabin, Henry leaned against the side of the car, his gaze fixed on the winding path that disappeared between rows of tall, silent trees. Tukai stood a short distance away, the black phone Henry had given her still in her hand. She said nothing, just watched him quietly, as if trying to memorize every detail: his broad shoulders, the solemn look in his eyes, the steady silence that had given her peace in the most chaotic moments of her life. "You're really leaving?" Her voice was soft, but steady. Henry turned to her. In that moment, all other sounds seemed to fade, only his eyes held hers in quiet understanding. "I have to," he replied, his voice calm, like the wind. "There's still work to be done. You understand that, don't you?" She nodded. Of course she did. She had never asked him where he came from, why he had appeared just when she thought there was no one left to trust. But something inside her knew this man had his own battles, his own burdens. He couldn't take her with him, but he had given her everything he could. "This place will be safe," Henry added. "My people will watch from afar. But you must stay alert. If anything happens, just hold the side button for 3 seconds." "I know," she interrupted, trying to keep her voice from cracking. "The phone will find you." Henry smiled, not a smile of joy, but of quiet recognition, as if to say, "We don't need more words." She stepped closer. 1 meter. Then half. But she didn't go further. That distance was enough to feel his presence, but also enough to respect the invisible line between two people who belonged to different worlds. "Henry," she called his name for the first time, softly. "I don't know why you helped me. But, thank you. For everything." He looked at her, long and steady. Then said just one thing. "Don't thank me. Just survive. That's enough." Tukai lowered her eyes. She was afraid that if she looked any longer, the tears she had been holding back would fall. She was not weak, she had learned to be silent, to endure, to run, to bite her lip and never cry. But in this moment, she felt like nothing more than a fragile girl, wishing desperately to hold on to the one thing that had come into her life just in time. Henry turned and walked to the car. He opened the door, paused, then looked back. "I'll come back," he said. "But don't wait for me. Live like I won't. Because if you're safe, then I'll have a reason to return." Tu-Kai nodded faintly. The wind picked up, lifting a few strands of her hair. She stood still as the car pulled away from the cabin, moving slowly, then disappearing into the mist at the edge of the forest. When she finally stepped back inside, the phone was still in her hand. The screen remained dark, never once lit up, but she knew it was not off. It was waiting. Just like her. The story of Tu-Kai and Henry is not just a journey of escape and survival, but a testament to the power of trust and quiet sacrifice. In a world full of danger and loneliness, the black phone symbolizes hope, connecting two souls despite distance and challenges. Henry is not only a protector but also an emotional anchor, giving Tu-Kai a sense of safety even when he's not physically present. Their bond doesn't rely on grand declarations but on presence and the promise to always be there when needed. This story touches the heart with its honesty, gentle yet profound, reminding us that in our darkest moments, faith and connection are what help us overcome every obstacle.